That's right, Matt. David Cameron is here in New York for the United Nations General Assembly. He'll be delivering a speech here tomorrow, and it's expected in that he will show strong support for President Obama's airstrikes and potentially even suggest that the UK could be joining in. And in that interview with the American media here, he certainly backed up that strong stance, saying this is a fight we cannot opt out of.
This is a fight you cannot opt out of. These people want to kill us. They have got us in their sights, and we have to put together this coalition, working with right across the board all those countries I mentioned, to make sure that we ultimately destroy this evil organisation.
Okay, it's one thing Britain standing shoulder to shoulder with America. We have a special relationship with them. What about President Obama getting wider international support?
Yeah, this is crucial for the president. This morning he said that this is not America's fight alone. Those airstrikes overnight in Syria, he had 5 allies from across the Middle East, but that is not enough on its own. He wants to degrade and destroy Islamic State militants. That's his objective, and he simply needs more allies. So far, the only Western ally he has is France. They're conducting airstrikes in Iraq, but he needs more than that, and he'll spend most of his time here at the United Nations trying to get international backing for his coalition.
Kate Fisher at the UN in New York, thanks very much indeed. Well, John Barron is a Conservative MP on the Foreign Affairs Committee. Before we came on air, he told me why he doesn't think Britain should get involved with any conflict in Syria.
The answer is no, unless we have very clear answers to important questions. I mean, we all know that airstrikes alone won't destroy ISIS. There has to be a plan B with regards regional ground forces, and if there isn't, then we could be entering a cul-de-sac. Furthermore, we don't know who would replace ISIS on the ground. You know, the morphing of one extreme group into another has been a feature of this civil war in Syria, and then there's a whole host of other issues like the legalities of the situation. But perhaps lastly and most importantly, unless we get Iraq straight, unless we drive ISIS out of northern Iraq, then perhaps Syria is going to be a sideshow anyway.
They need to be driven out, but you don't think we should be doing it? If not us, who?
Regional forces. I mean, the elephant in the room here when it comes to Iraq is the Iraqi army, about 20 times the size of ISIS, but so far has been very quiet. It's well equipped. It needs to be properly trained and structured, and that force should be driving ISIS out together with perhaps supportive airstrikes. But we also need to get the politics right. You know, one reason, the major reason we're in this situation with ISIS in northern Iraq is the sectarian politics pursued by the previous Prime Minister Maliki. That needs to change, but there's little evidence yet that the politics have changed and become inclusive.
Let's talk about the politics here. When Parliament voted on whether to get involved in Syria some months ago, you voted against that. If we'd have carried out airstrikes against President Assad, could things be different now?
Well, it's quite ironical. The key vote last year, we stopped the government intervening on the side of the rebels. And here we have now the government toying with the idea of intervening on the side of Assad. Not intentionally so, but that would be the net effect. And I think that shows you the perils of how quickly the situation can change on the ground and why caution is sometimes required. And in that vein, you know, we need these key questions answered that many of us are asking before we can commit to airstrikes of any kind, whether in Iraq or Syria. And perhaps the first one is, look, airstrikes alone won't destroy ISIS. They may degrade them, but they won't destroy them. If we're serious about removing ISIS from northern Iraq or destroying Syria, then we need regional, not Western, not UK troops, but regional troops willing to do that. If there is that not plan in place, then we could be entering a cul-de-sac through airstrikes alone.
That was Conservative MP John Barron talking to me earlier on. Simon Viger is here with me now. And Simon, a crucial few days ahead for the Prime Minister.
Yeah, it's going to be a big week, Matt. Officially, the Ministry of Defence says there's no decision has been taken, but I think it is moving towards British involvement now. Britain already supplying the Kurdish fighters. Obviously, the Prime Minister is in New York. He's looking for Iranian support for the coalition. Ed Miliband and the Lib Dems, they certainly, Labour and the Lib Dems want a UN resolution, so possibly a recall of Parliament Parliament on Friday for that debate. But David Cameron will only do that if he thinks he can win it.
Of course, Simon, thanks very much indeed.